Alright guys, we're in the recap Presidents Day 2025 TGL recap. So, three matches today with the Bay Golf Club, the Atlanta Drive, Boston Common, and the LAGC going at it. All four teams. Two more will be tomorrow. So one game tomorrow between New York Golf Club and the Jupiter Golf Links. Alright, so let's go and take a look at each match and how each one played out, going hole by hole. Alright, so starting off with the LAGC taking on the Atlanta Drive. This one went to overtime. What a tournament. LAGC enter this one at 2-0. Atlanta entered at 1-0. So both teams were undefeated coming into today. This was the LAGC's lone match of the day. Hole 1, they ended up tying. This went on for 2 holes total. So through the holes 1 and 2, hole 3, we finally got to see a hole where we got to finally see a hole that got won. So LAGC won the first hole. They had never been down in a match before. So it was 1-1. I'm at 1-0, starting off in hole 3. And then the hammer was thrown by Atlanta Drive, but LAGC declined it, so Atlanta won the hole in default. Hole 5 was drawn. LAGC threw the hammer, but nothing was won that hole. They tied the hole. Hole 6, the hammer was thrown, but LAGC declined it, so Atlanta went up 2-1. LAGC won the next hole, tied it at 2. And then LAGC, they won the hole. So LAGC won the hole. Hammer was thrown. So they went up. They went up 4-3. Hole 9 was tied. That was the final triples. And then for the first 2 holes, Justin Rose won them. So it was 1-1. 1-1. So they took the lead 5-3. It was 5-2. And then Billy Horschel, they threw the hammer. They won the hole 13. So they tied it at 5. They were down 5-4, and then they tied hole 14. So down 5-4 going into the final hole. Justin Thomas chipped it in to win the hole, and they tied it at 5. Going into overtime, Billy Horschel won. They beat Justin Rose 10 feet to 12 feet. Then closest to the pin, Tommy Fleetwood hold it out to win round number 2. So going into the final round, tied at 1 apiece. Patrick Cantley put within 7 feet more than Sahith Theegala to win the match for the Atlanta Drive. And they dropped LA to 2-0-1. They lost in overtime. So what a match to start off the day. And they added the new hammer rules, so that's just crazy. So for the stat-wise, Atlanta won more hammers than LAGC did. Atlanta won 3. LAGC won 1. Average driver distance, LAGC's average driver was 315, while Atlanta was 307. Atlanta hit the fairway 60% of the time. They scrambled 60%. Short putts, they made 80% from inside 10 feet. And then they didn't make any that was greater than 30. No putt greater than 30 in this match. 14% medium putts within 10 to 30 feet made for LAGC. And then made 75% of their short putts. So they hit the green in play 73% of the time. And they hit the fairway 80% of the time as well. Alright, so the roster of the day was Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, and Sahith Theegala for LAGC. And then it was Billy Horschel, Patrick Cantley, and Justin Thomas for Atlanta. Alright, so yeah, a great match for match number 1 of the day. And Atlanta won 6-5 in overtime. Now moving on to match number 2 of the day. The Atlanta Drive took on the Bay Golf Club. The Bay 3 and coming into this match 1-0 on their season. The roster for this match was Patrick Cantlay, Lucas Glover, and Justin Thomas for Atlanta. For the Bay, it was Wyndham Clark, Ludwig Aberg, and Minwoo Lee. So, for the for the spot score, hole number 1 was tied, 0-0. Hole number 2, the Bay won it, 1-0. And then the Bay won hole 3. They go up 3-0, 4-0. Atlanta, they won hole 5 with the hammer. So, okay, sorry. I'm going to redo this. Hole 1 was tied. Hole 2 was won. Hole 3, the Bay threw the hammer, but Atlanta declined to make it 2-0. Then the Bay won hole 4, make it 3-0. Atlanta threw the hammer. They got 2 points. 3-2. And then hole 6 was tied. The hammer was thrown. No points scored. They tied the hole. Hole 7, the Bay won the hole to go up 4-2. Hole 8 was tied. Hole 9 was won by Atlanta 4-3 going into the singles. Hole 10 was won by Wyndham Clark over Cantlay to take a 5-point lead. Justin Thomas threw the hammer and won the hole to tie it at 5. Wyndham Clark then won it at hole 13 to take the lead. He threw the hammer and Atlanta declined. Made it 6-5, and then holes 14 and 15 were tied to finish the day at 6-5. They won it. For stat-wise, hammers won. Both teams won 2 hammers. The average distance was for Atlanta 307 feet. For the Bay, 323 feet. Fairway consistency for the day, Atlanta 80%. The Bay 100%. Scrambling, they got 100%, while Atlanta got 50%. Green consistency, hitting it in regulation. The Bay 71% of the time, while Atlanta as well 71%. Short putts, Atlanta got 50% of their inside 10 feet, while the Bay made all of their 0 to 10 feet putts. Medium putts, 10 to 30 feet. The Bay made 25% of those, while Atlanta made 50% of theirs, and no putts were made greater than 30 feet. So, yeah, that is the stats of the match, and that is match number 2 of the day. Moving on to the final match of the day, which was the Bay Golf Club taking on Boston Common Golf. This was Boston Common Golf's only appearance of the day. They entered the day at 0-1-1. The Bay entered at 2-0, and they're trying to say unbeaten on the season. The rosters was Shane Lowry, Ludwig Aberg, and Wyndham Clark for the Bay, but for Boston it was Keegan Bradley, Hideki Matsuyama, and Rory McIlroy. Taking a look at the by hole. Hole number 1 was won. Boston Common threw the hammer and they won the hole 2-0. Hole 2 was tied. The Bay threw the hammer and Boston just conceded the hole. Hole 1 for the Bay, 2-1. The hole tied. Then the Bay threw the hammer and won the hole. They took the lead 3-2. And then hole 6 and hole 6 through 9 were tied, 3-2 going into the singles. Keegan Bradley beat Shane Lowry in hole 10 to tie it up at 3. And then Ludwig Aberg won hole 11 over Rory to take the lead 4-3. Hideki and Wyndham Clark tied. Keegan Bradley beat Shane Lowry as he threw the hammer and Lowry declined it. So Keegan won the hole to tie it up at 4. Hole 14 was tied, and Wyndham Clark beat Hideki Matsuyama in hole 15 to win the match 5-4. The stats for the day for both teams for the match. Hammers won. Both teams won 2 hammers. The average distance was for the Bay 316 feet. For Boston, it was 315 feet. So they were fairly close. Fairway consistency, so fairways hit. The Bay hit the fairway 90% of the time in regulation, while Boston hit it 80% of the time. Scrambling-wise, 67% for the Bay, while 33% for Boston. Green in regulation, 80% for both of them. And short putt, so inside 10 feet, the Bay made 75% of theirs, while the Boston made 80% of theirs. Boston did not attempt any inside from 10 to 30 feet, while the Bay made 25% of theirs as well, and no putt was attempted from greater than 30 feet. So that is the stats for match number 3, and yeah, Bay won both of their matches, Atlanta won one, and that was the day. Tomorrow is New York taking on Jupiter Lynx. Have another video for you to preview that match coming up.